I used to think jealousy was a flaw, something insecure people dealt with. That's what I believed until my girlfriend started getting cozy with her ex online, and somehow I became the villain just for noticing. It didn't happen all at once. Like most red flags, it began with something small. A name in passing. A memory casually shared. A joke I wasn't part of. The name was Tristan, her ex, and at first, it didn't bother me. I'm not the jealous type. I've never been. When Sienna told me they had dated for a few years but were still really good friends, I shrugged it off. Everyone has a past. I wasn't about to let a chapter before me ruin what we were building. Sienna and I had been together for just under a year and a half. Those early months were everything you hope for in a relationship. Fun, warm, spontaneous. She had this way of pulling me into her world, making me feel like the only person who mattered. We'd stay up all night talking about our childhoods, our regrets, our stupid dreams. It felt like we were writing something real. But somewhere around the 1-year mark, things started to change. Not suddenly, but slowly. Subtly, it was the way she smiled at her phone a little too long. The way she'd bring up Tristan like he was still a regular part of her life, like we were a couple, but he was always in the background, quietly claiming a seat at the table. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. She was allowed to have male friends. I knew that. I believed that. But something about the way she spoke about him made it different. It wasn't just Tristan said this or Tristan showed me that. It was the frequency, the fondness, the familiarity. She'd say things like, "You remind me of him sometimes," or "Tristan always made the best playlists." It's not what she said. It's what she didn't say. She never mentioned his flaws. Never told stories that made him seem human. In her mind, he was still perfect. And I wasn't sure where I fit in that comparison. The first real crack came during a Sunday brunch. We were talking about movies, and I mentioned a documentary I wanted to watch. Without thinking, she said, "Oh, Tristan and I saw that when it came out. So good." I smiled politely, but something twisted in my chest. I wanted to let it go. I tried, but later that day, as we were lying in bed scrolling through our phones, I asked, "Do you talk to Tristan often?" She looked up, eyes narrowed. "Why? Are you jealous?" Her tone was sharp, defensive, like I had just accused her of cheating. I wasn't angry. I just asked a question. But from that moment, everything shifted. Every time I brought him up, even in passing, she'd go cold. "You're being insecure. He's just a friend." This jealousy is really unattractive. And then the line she'd use whenever she wanted to shut me down completely. "That's your issue, not mine." I started questioning myself. Was I really being jealous? Was I becoming controlling? Or was I just noticing things she didn't want me to see? I tried to rationalize it. Everyone has a history. Maybe I was being sensitive. Maybe I needed to be more secure. But no matter how much I tried to suppress it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being played. Then came the Instagram story. One night, I was at home finishing up a work report when I saw she had posted new stories for what she called a reunion night with old friends. I tapped through them, expecting a few group shots, maybe some cocktails and laughter. But what I saw felt like a punch to the chest. There she was, her arms wrapped around Tristan's neck, leaning into him like no space had ever existed between them. In another, she was kissing his cheek. The caption read, "Missed this one." And the final story? A boomerang of them leaving a bar at 2 a.m., his hand resting on her lower back like it belonged there. I stared at my phone, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. My heart didn't race. It sank. When she walked into my place the next morning like nothing had happened, I kept my voice calm. I asked, "Did you have fun last night?" She smiled. "Yeah, it was great seeing everyone again." I nodded. The photos looked cozy. She froze for a second, then rolled her eyes. "Oh God, don't start." I didn't raise my voice. "I'm just saying, it looked a little more than friendly." She laughed bitterly. It was a kiss on the cheek. "Are you seriously jealous over that?" My jaw clenched, but I didn't respond right away, because I knew what was coming. "If you're jealous, that's your problem," she said. I'm not going to stop being friends with someone just because you're insecure. I wish I could tell you I stood up for myself, that I told her how disrespectful and humiliating it was to be publicly sidelined in favor of her ex. But I didn't. I just nodded and let it go. At least, that's what I pretended to do. But inside, something started unraveling. I realized that every time I tried to express how I felt, she used my words against me. Every concern became a flaw. Every boundary became control. And every act of emotional betrayal, just me being jealous. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying her voice, that mocking tone. You're insecure. You're controlling. That's your issue. But it wasn't my issue. It was hers. And it was time I stopped playing the role of the calm, understanding boyfriend, and started seeing the situation for what it really was. If you've ever felt like your instincts were being dismissed or your voice was being silenced, keep reading. Because what happened next wasn't just about one girl, one ex, or one set of Instagram stories. It became a reckoning. A moment when I stopped apologizing for noticing the obvious. And what I did next, it changed everything. The morning after the Instagram fiasco, I woke up before her and just stared at the ceiling, tried to quiet the war going on inside my chest. Her head rested peacefully on my arm, like everything was fine, like she hadn't just posted photos kissing her ex's cheek for the world to see. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just laid there, pretending to still be asleep, because the truth is, I wasn't ready to fight. Not yet. Part of me still hoped it wasn't what it looked like. That maybe I was overreacting. That maybe she was right. I was being jealous. But the smarter part of me, the part that had been quiet for too long, whispered something different. You're being disrespected. When she finally got up and headed to the bathroom, I reached for my phone and opened her Instagram again. The photos were still there. The cheek kiss, the flirty caption, the bar at 2 a.m. I checked the likes, Tristan's friends, her friends. Even a few people I'd met through her had left laughing emojis and comments like, "You two were always so cute," or "Something's never changed," smiling face with heart eyes. I was invisible in her world now. Not even a footnote. I realized something then. It wasn't just about what she did. It was about what she didn't do. She didn't think twice before posting those photos. She didn't consider how they might make me feel, because she didn't care. Or worse, she did and posted them anyway. Later that day, I asked her a question I already knew the answer to. If I posted a picture kissing my ex on the cheek, how would you feel? She blinked, stunned. That's different. I tilted my head. Why? She shrugged, already irritated. Because I know you'd only do it to get back at me. I'm not trying to hurt you. Tristan and I are just friends. And there it was, the double standard dressed in fake innocence. I nodded slowly and said nothing more. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I had learned something valuable in that moment. People who care about you don't make you beg for basic respect. And people who don't, they'll always find a way to turn a mirror on you and ask why you're broken. Over the next few days, I tested the waters. I brought up simple topics to see how she'd react. I asked, "Do you think it's fair to share old couple photos with someone you once dated?" She shot back instantly. "You're still obsessed with this? God, you're so sensitive." I said, "I just want to understand where your boundaries are." She smiled condescendingly, like a teacher explaining basic math to a kindergartner. "My boundary is not being controlled by insecure men. That sound okay to you?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and gave her a small smile. Got it. But I had seen enough. She wasn't just ignoring my feelings. She was erasing them, tearing them apart and labeling them toxic. She called it confidence, independence, empowerment. But what I saw was someone who couldn't recognize emotional accountability if it stared her in the face. That night, while she was in the shower, I sat in her living room, scrolling through our old messages. Just months ago, she had been the girl who sent me sleepy selfies, who told me she'd never felt safer with anyone. Now she was the girl telling me I was a problem for not enjoying her digital reunion with a guy who used to call her babe. The truth hurt, but it was clear. She had never really let Tristan go. Not emotionally. Maybe not even physically. And whether she admitted it or not, she enjoyed the power. She liked knowing two people wanted her. She liked the attention, the control. She liked watching me squirm while pretending to be above it all. But I wasn't going to squirm anymore. I was done tiptoeing around her ego. So I started observing silently, watching her social media activity more closely. Not like a creep, not obsessively, but like someone connecting the dots she had tried so hard to scatter. I noticed Tristan liked every story she posted. He commented on throwback pics, hearted her photos from weeks ago, reacted with laughing emojis on her reels. It wasn't friendship. It was a flirtation disguised as nostalgia. And she let it happen, encouraged it even. And every time I raised a concern, she flipped the script like a seasoned manipulator. I was tired of defending normal boundaries, tired of being made to feel like I was the one losing grip, tired of pretending like this wasn't hurting me. But here's the thing about betrayal. It builds slowly. It sneaks in through the cracks. And then one day, it kicks the whole door down. That moment was coming. I could feel it. And this time, I wasn't going to be caught off guard. If you're reading this and you've ever had to explain over and over why something feels wrong, you're not crazy. You're not insecure. You're not too sensitive. You're being conditioned to accept less than you deserve. And the longer you stay silent, the louder their version of the truth becomes. Speak up. Pay attention. Because if someone calls you jealous every time you ask for respect, maybe it's not your jealousy that's the problem. Maybe it's their behavior. Two days after our last fight, I told myself I needed to let it go. Not because I believed I was wrong, but because I was exhausted. Every conversation was like walking into a trap she'd set with a smile. I'd open my mouth, and within minutes I was the bad guy, the overthinker, the jealous boyfriend. So I chose silence. And maybe she took that silence as surrender. Maybe she thought I'd given up questioning, because I finally believed her. What she didn't realize was that my silence was observation, calculation, a quiet preparation for something I didn't know how to define yet, but it was coming. That Friday night, she said she was going out with friends. Just the girls, she added casually, throwing her jacket on. I nodded, pretending not to notice the extra effort in her makeup, the new heels she hadn't worn since Valentine's. Where are you going? I asked like it was just small talk, just a lounge downtown. Nothing big, she said, grabbing her bag. I nodded again and kissed her cheek. Have fun, I said, and I meant it. I wanted her to have fun, because fun tends to leave behind footprints, and I was done ignoring them. Hours later, I was at home watching mindless YouTube videos when my phone buzzed. A friend of mine, someone who didn't even know about the tension between Sienna and me, sent me a screenshot. Yo, you good, it read. I stared at the image. It was from a story she was tagged in someone else's profile. In the background of a dimly lit lounge, there she was, sitting next to Tristan, his arm behind her on the couch. Her head tilted toward him like they were sharing some secret joke. The angle wasn't perfect, but I knew that body language. I knew that look on her face. It wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. I tapped through to see if there were more. And there it was, a short boomerang of them laughing, leaning in so close they may as well have been breathing the same air. A third post, this time on Tristan's own story, showed a round of drinks, with Sienna's hand visible in the frame, her distinctive ring glinting against the glass. No caption, just a song playing, something about old flames never dying, subtle enough for deniability, obvious enough for people to notice. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, not angry, just hollow. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't ask who she was with. I wanted to see if she'd tell me, if she'd offer the truth, even partially. Spoiler, she didn't. She came home around 1:30 a.m., heels in hand, eyeliner smudged. You're still up? She asked, surprised. Couldn't sleep, I said. She nodded and walked past me into the bathroom like it was just another night. No mention of Tristan. Not even a slip. The next morning over coffee, I asked, "So how was the lounge?" She smiled. "Chill. Loud music, nothing crazy. Stayed for like an hour and dipped." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you got home around 1:30. She shrugged. "We grabbed food after. Took forever." I stirred my coffee. "Were you with Tristan?" Her face didn't even twitch. "No. Why would you ask that?" I took a slow sip, just wondering. And then came the gaslight again. "You've really got to stop obsessing over him. It's getting weird. It's like you want there to be something going on." I wanted to laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. So textbook. She'd lie. I'd question. She'd deflect. I'd doubt myself. But not this time. This time I looked her in the eyes and said, "I saw the story." Her face changed instantly. A flash of panic before the performance began. "It's not what it looked like," she said quickly. "I didn't even know he was going to be there." "Really?" I said calmly. "Because it looked like you were sitting awfully close for a surprise guest." She stood up from the table. "You're twisting this into something it's not." "Am I?" I asked. "Because I've been quiet. I watched you cross lines for weeks, and I let it go. But this was public. This wasn't just a message or a meme. You were physically there, with him, all over someone else's story. And you still came home and lied to my face." She started to tear up. "I didn't lie. I just didn't mention it, because I knew you'd act like this." I stood up too. "Act like what?" "Like someone who expects their girlfriend not to cuddle up with her ex in bars and pretend nothing happened." "You're jealous," she said again, desperate now. "That's all this is. You're so threatened by him, it's pathetic." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. It's not jealousy when someone's clearly disrespecting you. It's awareness, and I'm wide awake now. She stormed out after that, slamming the door like that gave her the moral high ground. And in that silence, I made a decision. I wasn't going to play detective anymore. I wasn't going to collect clues and question my gut. I was going to put everything out in the open. If she wouldn't tell the truth, I'd find someone who deserved to hear it. Tristan's girlfriend, if he had one. And if not, maybe the truth needed to be public anyway. That afternoon, I made a folder on my computer. I filled it with every screenshot, every tag photo, every flirtatious comment, and innocent cheek kiss. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but having it felt like a reclaiming of reality. Like finally, I was holding proof that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been screaming for a reason. If you've ever found yourself gathering evidence like a detective in your own relationship, you already know the truth. Trusting your gut isn't paranoia. It's protection. Because some people won't admit they're lying, even when the lie is caught in 4K. And when you start to see the pattern, don't just sit with it. Prepare to act. Because what's coming next, it's going to change everything. 2 days passed before I made my move. I needed time, not to calm down, but to think clearly. Emotional reactions are easy to dismiss. Cold facts, though, they sting in a way you can't argue with. I had the screenshots, the stories, the flirty captions, the bar photos, the Instagram tags. All of it lined up like pieces on a chessboard. And while Sienna went on pretending nothing had happened, posting selfies, sharing coffee memes, tagging friends like her world was perfectly intact, I was quietly checking Tristan's Instagram. That's when I found her. Her name was Isla, pediatric nurse, dog lover, proud girlfriend of 2 years. Her captions were pure and simple. Love this man. Date night with my favorite human. 2 years down, forever to go. She had no clue, not even a whisper of what had been happening behind her back, while Tristan was off, reconnecting with old friends. I scrolled through her profile, looking for an excuse not to tell her. Maybe I was overstepping. Maybe this wasn't my place. But the truth is, I knew exactly how it felt to be lied to be gaslit, to have your instincts dismissed like a joke. And I couldn't just let her keep walking blind into something I'd already escaped. So I sent a message. "Hi, Isla. You don't know me, but I'm dating Sienna. I'm not trying to start drama, and I'm not looking for anything in return. I just thought you should see what your boyfriend's been up to during his nights out. These are screenshots from the past few weeks. Do with them what you want. I attached the folder, added a quick line. I'm truly sorry you have to see this. And hit send. And then I waited. She saw it within an hour. No reply. No reaction. Just a silent profile view. And then chaos. Tristan's Instagram went dark. Every photo of Isla vanished. Within minutes, she posted a story. A screenshot of Sienna's kiss on the cheek photo with a caption, "Just friends, right?" Followed by another, "When your boyfriend's guy's night was actually a beach cuddle session with his ex." It wasn't subtle, and it didn't need to be. It was fire, pure, raging fire. The kind that burns lies down to the foundation. My phone blew up next. First a call from Sienna. I didn't answer. Then another. Then 15 more. Then a text. "What the hell did you do?" I ignored that too. Next was Tristan. A blocked number. Voicemail. He was crying. Or pretending to. "You psycho, you ruined my life. You don't understand. It wasn't like that." Click. Delete. Sienna sent another barrage of messages. "You're sick. You had no right. This is so toxic. I can't believe you did this. You just wanted to ruin everything." And still, I said nothing. Because here's the thing. I didn't do anything except shine a light. That's all it ever takes to destroy something built on lies. Just one flashlight. The rest comes crashing down on its own. Later that evening, Isla detonated the bomb. She uploaded an Instagram carousel titled 2 Years Wasted. Slide 1, Tristan and Sienna at the bar. Slide 2, the cheek kiss. Slide 3, a screenshot of text where Tristan said he was on a work trip the night he was actually out with Sienna. Slide 4, to the guy who swore he was over his ex. Good luck living in the past. Slide 5, to the girl who thought disrespecting another woman was cute. I hope he doesn't cheat on you too. Comments flooded in. Isla, I'm so sorry. You deserve way better. Tristan, seriously, he's trash. LMAO Sienna's out here catching L's like it's a sport. And the final comment that made me smile. Imagine calling your boyfriend jealous while you're playing house with your ex-clown behavior. Sienna went into meltdown mode. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, eyes swollen, makeup smudged, holding a bag of the stuff I had left at her place. I didn't invite her in. I just stood in the doorway. "Are you happy?" she asked, voice trembling. "You destroyed everything." I tilted my head. "No, Sienna, you did that. I just forwarded your own posts." Her lips quivered. "Tristan won't even talk to me. He says I ruined his relationship." I raised an eyebrow. "You posted kissing selfies with someone else's boyfriend and tried to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. What did you think would happen?" "It was just a cheek kiss," she shouted. "I was trying to make you jealous." I stared at her. "You were trying to make me jealous, but when I expressed concern, you said jealousy was my issue. You can't play both sides, Sienna." She went quiet for a moment, then tried a different tactic. "We can fix this. I'll delete everything. I'll block him. Just let's start over." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Too late," I said. "You didn't just cross the line. You danced on it. And now you're upset there are consequences. So that's it? You're ending this over some posts," she snapped. "No," I said quietly. "I'm ending this because of the constant disrespect. The lies. The manipulation. The photos were just the final proof." She left the bag on my doorstep and walked away. But I knew she wasn't done. People like Sienna never go quietly. And I was right. Because the next day she went nuclear. If you've ever confronted someone with the truth and watched them burn everything just to avoid taking responsibility, then you already know what comes next. Because some people would rather set the world on fire than admit they lit the match. And Sienna? She was about to drag everyone into the flames. The next morning, I woke up to a group chat I didn't recognize. The name read, "Let's clear the air." Inside it, me, Sienna, Tristan, and Isla. I stared at the screen for a long moment, unsure whether to laugh or brace myself. And then I saw the first message from Sienna. She wrote, "Since everyone wants to act like children, let's talk like adults." Ryan was jealous of my friendship with Tristan and vindicatively tried to break up T and Isla. This is toxic masculinity at its finest. I've done nothing wrong except maintain a friendship. I blinked. Toxic masculinity. That's what she was calling this. Not betrayal. Not emotional manipulation. No, me telling the truth was toxic. I didn't even respond. I wanted to see where it went. Isla, however, didn't wait. Friendship? She replied, "I have 73 screenshots that say otherwise. You want to talk like adults? Let's do it." And then she started posting receipts. One by one. Text messages from Tristan calling Sienna baby. Him saying I miss you. Him venting about Isla. Saying she just doesn't get me like you do. Plans to accidentally run into each other at cafes and lounges. DMs with heart emojis. You still look amazing texts, and a long thread where Tristan told Sienna, "I wish I was with you instead." The silence in the chat stretched after that. Long awkward. Like all three of us were holding our breath while watching a fire crawl under the floorboards. Finally, Tristan responded. "Those are out of context." Isla clapped back in seconds. What context makes, "I wish I was with you instead." Okay. A friendship retreat? A therapy session? He didn't answer. Then Sienna jumped in, scrambling. Ryan manipulated all of this. He's obsessed with making me look bad. He stalked my posts and twisted everything. I typed for the first time. I literally forwarded your public Instagram posts. That's not manipulation. That's honesty. If your friendship couldn't survive the truth being shared, maybe it wasn't that innocent to begin with. Then came the bombshell. Isla, calm but brutal. "By the way, Sienna, did you know about Jenna? Caitlin? The other girls Tristan was just friends while dating you?" The typing bubbles froze. Sienna didn't respond. So Isla continued, "You weren't special. He's been pulling this with every girlfriend he's had. Tag photos, old captions. He did the same with Jenna in 2021. Same poses. Same miss this one energy. You were part of the pattern, not the exception." Tristan left the chat. Sienna typed, "What the hell are you talking about?" Isla didn't hold back. Asked him about Jenna, about Caitlin, about the friend dates he had while dating you. The ones he said were platonic. The ones that looked just like the stories you posted last week. Then she dropped a link to Tristan's old tag photos. I clicked. Sure enough, there he was, on a beach towel with Jenna, her head resting on his chest. Another with him at a candlelit dinner with Caitlin. Caption just catching up with an old friend. All with dates overlapping his supposed time with Sienna. It was the same script. Different girl. Different audience. Same lies. Sienna left the chat next. I closed the app and leaned back in my chair, letting the silence settle in. It wasn't just satisfying. It was surreal. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I wasn't questioning my reality. I wasn't wondering if I was overthinking or being too sensitive. I had been played, but I had walked away before the crash. And now the wreckage was visible for everyone to see. That night, Isla sent me a private message. "Thanks for the heads up. Saved me from wasting more time. Sorry your ex was trash too." I replied, "Sometimes the trash takes itself out." She reacted with a laugh emoji. That was it. Nothing dramatic. No lingering. Just two people acknowledging a storm they both survived. Meanwhile, Sienna went full meltdown mode on social media. She posted a long, rambling notes app screenshot to her story. Something about toxic men who can't handle confident women with male friends. Classic. Within minutes, her own followers were dragging her in the comments. One wrote, "Girl, you posted yourself kissing another woman's boyfriend and called your own boyfriend jealous. The math ain't matting." Another said, "You don't get to scream boundaries after ignoring everyone else's." She deleted the post within the hour, but it was too late. The damage was done. Her curated image, the fun, flirty, no regrets queen, was cracking. People weren't just seeing through her now. They were pointing it out, loudly. But just when I thought it was over, she tried one last move. She showed up at my apartment the next morning with a cardboard box, my old hoodie, charger, a book she borrowed and never read. Her eyes were puffy, makeup smeared like she hadn't slept. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't say a word, just waited. "I know I messed up," she continued. "I got caught up in it. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't want to hurt you." I nodded. "But you did." She swallowed. Do you think you could ever forgive me?" I looked at her for a long second. "No, because you didn't just make a mistake. You made choices, over and over. And then when I brought it up, you tried to make me feel small for noticing." She started to cry. "I really did love you." I gave her a sad smile. "No, you love the attention. There's a difference." She didn't argue, just set the box down and left. And maybe that should have been the end. But one chapter still remained. Because Sienna wasn't the type to sit with consequences. Not for long. If you've ever seen someone try to rewrite the truth after being caught in a lie, you'll want to see how this story ends. Because in the final chapter, everything that was hidden comes into the light. And what happens next? Let's just say, some people never learn until the whole world watching. After Sienna left that morning, I stood at the door for a while, staring at the box she placed on my porch like a peace offering. I didn't touch it for hours. Not because I wanted what was inside, but because I wanted to absorb what had finally happened. For the first time in 18 months, there were no mixed signals, no blurred lines, no fake apologies waiting to be decoded. There was only silence. A silence that felt a lot like freedom. But the universe, apparently, wasn't done with the drama. 3 days later, Sienna tried one last play. I woke up to messages from mutual friends. "Bro, check her story. She's at it again. You're not gonna believe this." I opened Instagram. There it was. A selfie of her and Tristan, side by side at some rooftop cafe. Fake smiles plastered across their faces. The caption read, "Real love always finds its way back." My jaw didn't drop. My stomach didn't sink. I just blinked once and shook my head. The comments told the real story. "Girl, weren't y'all just friends last week? Oh, so now it's love?" He really said, "I miss you," to every woman on earth, huh? We're watching a live documentary on emotional manipulation. She turned comments off an hour later. They lasted 4 days. Not 4 weeks. Not even a full week. 4 days. Then came the final explosion. Tristan posted a selfie at the gym, solo, with the caption, "Growth requires letting go of what no longer serves you." Translation, he got bored, or maybe the attention dried up, or maybe Sienna started expecting emotional maturity and he panicked. Either way, it was done. Sienna followed up with her usual damage control. First, the cryptic quotes, "Sometimes love is enough." "Protect your energy." "Know your worth, even when others don't." Then the new dating app profile. My friend, who happened to come across it, sent me the screenshot. Her bio read, "Looking for someone confident enough to handle a woman with male friends." The red flags were waving themselves at this point. I laughed, not bitterly, not mockingly, just genuinely. Because when you've been through emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and disrespect, healing doesn't always come in a dramatic moment. Sometimes it shows up in a quiet chuckle as you scroll past someone who used to ruin your peace. The closure wasn't in her apology. It wasn't the messages or the group chat or the social media implosion. The closure was me realizing I never needed her to understand what she did wrong. I only needed me to stop accepting it. A few weeks later, I started seeing someone new. Her name's Kayla. We met at a friend's barbecue. Nothing planned, nothing forced. It started with shared plate of wings and a laugh over bad music, and somehow it felt easier than anything I'd experienced in the last year and a half. On our second date, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowned slightly, then said, "My ex wants to return a book. You cool if I swing by his place tomorrow for 10 minutes? I'll text you when I'm done." I just stared at her. Not because I was uncomfortable, but because she asked, like it was normal, like respecting someone's emotional space was basic courtesy instead of a chore. I nodded and said, "Thank you for telling me." She smiled and said, "Why wouldn't I? We're a team." That's the difference. It's not about being possessive. It's not about forbidding friendships with exes or controlling who they talk to. It's about feeling safe in a relationship where your boundaries aren't labeled as insecurity. It's about knowing your partner won't gaslight you for caring. So, if you're reading this and you're in a relationship where every time you raise a concern, you're met with mockery, deflection, or twisted logic, don't shrink to fit. Don't convince yourself you're asking for too much when you're really just asking for the bare minimum. Your boundaries are valid. Your instincts aren't broken. And love? Real love doesn't demand that you tolerate disrespect for the sake of appearing secure. I used to think the worst part of betrayal was the moment you found out. It's not. The worst part is all the times before that when your gut knew, but you were told you were crazy. When you saw the signs, but ignored them because you wanted to believe in something that didn't actually exist. That's the real damage. That's what takes the longest to heal. But once you wake up from that fog, something changes in you. You stop begging to be chosen. You stop trying to prove you're enough. You stop accepting love that comes with disclaimers and conditions and public humiliation disguised as, I didn't mean it like that. You start walking differently. And eventually, someone walks with you without asking you to dim yourself just to make their ego feel taller. As for Sienna, last I heard, she was still on dating apps. Still posting inspirational quotes about healing. Still trying to convince people she was misunderstood. Let her, because the truth has a way of settling into the spaces where lies used to live. And sometimes the best way to say I'm not jealous is to say nothing at all. Just leave, heal, grow, and let them watch from a distance while you thrive.